So people want to have more discipline in their lives, and many think that having military discipline, quote unquote, will solve that problem. I'm here to tell you you've been lied to. There are so many influencers out on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, whatever the case, that didn't come from the military who think that they know what military discipline looks like. And just because they just watched a bunch of YouTube videos themselves and just regurgitate what they've learned. And I'm here to tell you there's a lot of misconceptions about military discipline. It just doesn't apply well and translate well into civilian life, into personal life, and I'm going to share you a little bit of my own story about like an example of why it just doesn't translate well. So back when I was in recruit training, there was a time where I had to go on a night watch. It's called fire watch. So we would every time when we'd have to bunker down in the squad bay at about 2000 or 8 p.m. We'd have certain time blocks for a fire watch. So we'd watch out, we'd keep the rifles accountable, we'd make sure everyone's in their bunks, in their bunk beds and all that. And we just have to keep watch of everything for an entire hour, sometimes more, depending on like how if you really messed up. I've had a few cases where I messed up and had to do 2 hour uh, fire watches back to back to back. So that kind of sucks. But there was one instance where kind of just didn't sit well with me. I really messed up like the day prior. I don't exactly know where, but I think it was just like a combination of things I just messed up throughout that day. And I had some drill instructors that were just out to get me. It seemed like they were I was just public enemy number one with them. And they wanted to, like, one particular drill instructor, when I was during fire watch, he literally took me, like, for, I don't know what reason it was, but I must have really messed up that day. So he just took me down to the shower room and he made me scrub like on the walls. I had to have like a brush and just scrub the walls, squat like this, and as a form of like instilling discipline. And I was exhausted. I was sweating. I was in pain because I was doing literally this hundreds of times, and I had to do it on time as well. So like I had to scrub the whole wall within like 30 seconds or less. And if you know about drill instructors, they count fast down. So they do 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 24. Dude, they do all that. And I had to like do it in a human amount of cleaning. And to be fair, it was exhausting and it was mentally draining. And I think the point here I'm trying to make is that we tend to want to punish ourselves and condemn ourselves and try to push harder to try to instill discipline in our lives, but when that's really not the case. And this is not a pity story or anything. I don't want any pity out of this. There's so many things that are translating into military discipline. When you try to put it back into your personal life, it just doesn't work well, especially for veterans that are coming out. You just there's so many things. There's some aspects that can be helpful, like structuring your day, having a routine, waking up at a certain time, things like that. That does help, but like there's a lot of other misconceptions that we need to understand that this doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve us in the long term. If anything, it's going to be mentally, physically damaging to us. It's going to ruin our self-esteem. It's going to devalue us. It's going to like lose our own self-respect to ourselves. We think that if we're not going to be able to be capable of doing good things, we just end up punishing ourselves and trying to do things that we don't. And if we try to enforce that on ourselves or for others, it's just not going to work. So I really need to think about like the actual disciplines that we need to start implementing in our lives that doesn't involve punishing or suffering, right? And I'll be clear here. Having discipline in your life is not going to be the most comfortable thing. I'll say that up front. Sometimes it is painful, but we don't have to make it a condemning, punishing act to try to discipline ourselves. It should be a place of freedom to be able to have structure in your day, to be able to work on the things that you actually want to achieve in your life. And if you're trying to discipline yourself into just for the sake of punishing yourself and not achieving a certain goal or a certain accomplishment, there's not much you're going to achieve. Like I could I could go for 10 miles if I wanted to, but like if my goal is not to run a marathon and just for the sake of punishment, like what are my goals here? What is my particular goal here? And I'm not saying like running is bad or anything, but like, if you're doing it out of a place of wanting to condemn yourself and punish yourself because you just feel like you're not enough, or that you feel like you're not capable or valuable in the world, or things like that, then that could be a damaging thing to try to instill discipline from that source, right? We need to be able to instill discipline in our lives from a place of freedom, from a place of positivity, from a place of love and respect to ourselves, that we see ourselves as valuable, and we want to actually build these systems into our lives because we care about ourselves, right? I a few years back, and even in the Marine Corps, I didn't really value myself as well as I'd hoped. When I got into the Marines, or like when I got my title of Marine, I thought that was going to fix my entire life. I thought having that status would just change everything. And if anything, it made things worse because I had the attitude of, oh, I need to just punish myself and push myself and suffer because that's what great people do, right? I was coming out of a place of negativity, and that carried on throughout the rest of my adulthood in the Marines and out of the Marines, where I was struggling with depression. I was isolating myself from friends and family. I was going through addictions to pornography and social media and video games, and I'd spend 10 plus hours a day on it because I didn't have real systems in my life personally that was outside of the military. So you might see that most people in the military appear disciplined. I'm going to tell you right now, what's on the inside, what's truly on the inside is not what's like is on the outside. For me personally, whenever I would come out of duty, when I go back home, a lot of that discipline that was imposed on me from other people, it didn't translate. It didn't work well for me. So I needed to have true self-discipline. And I think that's another thing too, that discipline, when imposed from someone else and when it's coming from an external source, not just some like negative source that comes from within, but like from someone else teaching you discipline, if you don't have that self intrinsic motivation to accomplish something, then it's not going to be sustainable. You're not going to be consistent with it. But if you have something that's truly intrinsic and like intrinsically motivating to you, then self-discipline becomes a lot easier. You have a purpose, you have a vision that you want to get to, you have a certain goal that you want to achieve outside of what other people tell you to do. Right? So the military imposes discipline per se, but it's not going to be sustainable or consistent if they're always going to be the ones that are externally motivating you. You also need to have intrinsic motivations and motivators to want to be disciplined in your life, not just what other people tell you to do. That's another thing I wanted to mention. So we need to be able to be clear on what we want to achieve and what are the actions we need to take and how we can intrinsically motivate ourselves to that destination, to that certain goal, that vision, that purpose, that mission, whatever the case, because that's what's going to move you forward. If you have that purpose back in your life, that's what's going to matter the most. So I do have other discipline systems that I do talk about more in depth, and I can link one of those in the video here, so you can check that out if you want. Yeah, that's it for me. If you kind of like this, if you want more videos like this, drop a comment below to make sure that this video gets pushed to other people. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'd love to know your thoughts, and I'll catch y'all later. Semper Fi.